it all the three sessions were major successes, with the participants and the speakers interacting with each other, making it a very fun and enjoyable and obviously knowledgeable sessions. So thank you to the audience for that. And I'm sure today's session, as well as the next two upcoming sessions, will be as interesting and as knowledgeable as it was. And before we begin, I'd like to, I hope that everyone is doing well, physically, mentally, because this is a tough period for all of us. Although, the cases has reduced, the danger is still there. So I hope everyone is healthy. You're following the protocols of the government, wearing your mask, sanitizing your hands regularly, because health is the foremost for all of us. So with that, coming to today's session, we have CA Madhukar Hiregange as our guest of honor and CA Aditya Agarwal as our speaker. So today's session specifically is special to me because my career in the indirect tax field began under the guidance of CA Madhukar Hiregange. I remember that during my articleship, my seat was just outside his cabin in the office. And I learned not only, indirect tax as a subject, but also, the morals, the principles, the integrity that make us as, what we as chartered accountants should follow in our life. And that has completely, changed my life. And whatever I am today as a chartered accountant is definitely, because of CA Madhukar Hiregange. So thank you so much, sir. And it's a pleasure and honor having you on board here and, sharing a dais with you after so many years. So again, I welcome you. And now we also have CA Neha Agarwal with us from Voice of CA. So Neha, you can take over the dais.
Hi, thank you so much, Ramya. I would like to say good evening and namaste to our guest of honor, our faculty, and all the participants who have taken out the time to join us today. I am CA Neha Agarwal. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Voice of CA. Please excuse the background noise. Coming to what is Voice of CA, it's an NGO based in Delhi, which has been working towards professional updation and betterment since 2009 through its mailers, WhatsApps, seminars, and webinars. I would share the links for the same in the chat box. You can join our member base of 60,000 plus professionals by clicking on these links and network with them and stay updated professionally. Today, we are decoding GST for the healthcare sector, as mentioned by Ramya. I know it will be a very fascinating and knowledgeable session today, given our guest of honor and speaker both are very learned in the subject. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest of honor for today, CA Madhukar N. Hiregange, past Central Council member, a chartered accountant by profession and an entrepreneur at heart. He has an experience of more than 34 years in indirect taxes. He started his own firm, Hiregange and Associates, back in 2002 with a presence pan-India today and a team of 250 plus members at least and 14 plus partners, which is great. He's an inspiration to all young professionals and entrepreneurs, especially to me, and of course, Ramya as well. I, on behalf of Voice of CA and Optotax, wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. I would now request you to enlighten us with your words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. That was very nice introduction. And yeah, Ramya was one of the very smart people. I don't know why she left us, but I have not lost hope. Recently, I told somebody you should contact this girl and get her back. So I don't know when she's going to come back, but yes, we had the pleasure of developing a number of leaders. In fact, our mission, if we see our mission statement, our mission is to create committed professional leaders. And I'm so proud of you, Ramya, that you have made a place for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I will just take some general comments starting because I am not going to talk on healthcare. The faculty Aditya Agarwal will speak on it and I will add to it if there is anything to add. And I would certainly like to thank Optotax for taking this unique system. The knowledge, general knowledge is available many times, but the specific knowledge on industries, which is so critical for a practicing chartered accountant or those in those sectors is certainly something which is a good idea, and I would salute Optotax for its vision. I will just take a few tips on how we need to practice when we are practicing in CA. I thought we can start with what we as the professionals can do. So this has nothing to do with only the specific healthcare sector, but it's applicable to every sector. First thing is, as chartered accountant and professionals, we need to remember there's no logic in tax. We can't use reason. We have to be bound by the Act, the Constitution of India, the judgments which are relevant. And we have to be very, very vigilant. Fortune in taxation only favors the vigilant. Due to the thousands of notification and circulars which have happened in the last 4.5 years plus, one has to keep updated. Every day there is something happening. And unless we know what has happened and what is the impact on us, we have to look at it. In fact, I think yesterday there was a Supreme Court decision on pharma companies saying that the giving of all sorts of gifts to the doctors is not an allowable expense under Section 37 of the Income Tax Act. Now that will have an impact on GST, or will it not have? So we need to do some studies there, find out why not. One point, practical point which I have is, there has been a lot of oral communication in the indirect taxes, which has led to a lot of difficulty for the clients. And in my 34 years, I started in 1988, my firm. I have realized that putting everything in writing and on record, even if the officer is not willing to give it. For example, officer calls and you should tell him very politely, please send me an email from your official email ID or send me a notice. Send me a letter, inquiry letter. I will answer everything, not a problem. In case they don't do it, you record it. You say, thank you for calling us and asking for the following information. We have asked you to give it in writing. I would like to again request you on record, and send it through the official email ID. Share it with that particular officer. Sometimes what happens is that the high-handedness of the officer hurts the individual, his business, or even his pride and confidence. The fact that he's a tax-paying human being, and that is something which sometimes hurts them. That time you should very politely represent that we do not expect this to be the behavior of an officer of the central government. In case it is happening to many, maybe a representation through the association is a good thing. We have developed a method of declaration. This we used to do in central excise, then in service tax, and now in GST. Most of our clients, we tell them to make a declaration of what they are doing, what is their product, what is their service, what is the method of valuation, how do they deal with their companies, group companies outside India, inside India, how do they avail SENVAT credit in the old regime, in GST, the ITC credit. And this particular method, I have found, safeguards the taxpayer substantially. Self-declare it. Hardly anybody does it. You can do it. There's nothing wrong in doing it, and it's on record. And ask them to confirm that what you have said, what you are thinking is in order. This will save you on a very important aspect of 2 years of additional demand time, which is called beyond limitation period. So this automatically means your demand can be only 40%. It cannot be 100%, even if it is true, even if you have made a mistake. Second very important aspect is, though you don't have the 9C audit by the chartered accountants, the internal verification by knowledgeable professionals, whether they are chartered accountants, cost accountants, or others, is something which is of great use. There are wonderful books by Taxman and also by Bloomsbury, which you can use. In case you are being coerced, the DGCI is sometimes very, very harsh, and you get scared. And in case you pay, you need not pay by cash, first of all. You can pay by debiting the ITC register. That is, your accumulated tax credit can be used to pay. That is the law of the land. They cannot insist that you pay in cash. In case they make you pay in cash, you should bring to their notice that you wanted to debit the ITC, but it has been forced to be paid in cash. And that force itself is not right. We are a democratic country. Constitution protects us. The judiciary protects us. And therefore, you should pay it under protest. Many of the officers will tell you there is no provision to pay under protest. But like natural justice, there need not be any provision, specific provision. It was removed in the latter part of the central excise regime. So we have been doing for hundreds of cases in the GST, where anything incorrect, we pay under protest. In case of unreasonable behavior, high-handedness, there are 4 steps which I would like to share. First, escalate whatever has happened in writing, giving your facts and reasons. Escalate means write to the officer who is doing it and his higher officer. You may think, what is the point? They are all hand in glove. Doesn't matter. You do your job. Let them do their job. In case they still give you calls, threaten you, etc., escalate it to the commissioner or the higher officer, if there are any, before the commissioner. Sometimes they demand money. You need not say they have demanded money, but you can escalate to the vigilance also. Just send them a copy of your protest. The last is meet the deputy commissioner or the commissioner. You will be surprised. 90% of the time, you will not have any difficulty in meeting them. You may have a difficulty meeting that officer who is conducting the issue, that is that particular raid or investigation. But meeting the commissioner is much easier. Call them up, send them an email, go and meet them. Before going, send them something in writing to show that it is bona fide. You are not trying to influence anything incorrectly. With this, I hope I have set a small tone of optimism that we can work as ethical professionals in this area. You would be surprised to know, Ramya can confirm this, since she was in my office for some time in the end, that in this 34 years I have been a professional, we have never paid a bribe in the profession, not to any departmental officer. Thank you very much. Aditya, I will stop sharing and you can take it ahead. Thank you very much. I will join in the end for about 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for such enlightening words and for setting the tone for today's session. Aditya would be decoding GST for healthcare sector going forward. And just to inform all the participants, Hiregange sir would be here throughout the session and would be taking up a small PPT towards the end as well. Ramya, I would request you to please take over. Thank you, sir, for taking out the time.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Madhukar, Hiregange sir, for such enlightening words and emphasizing on how important it is to maintain our morals as professionals. So at this juncture, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Sri Aditya Agarwal. Aditya Agarwal is a practicing chartered accountant with a flair for indirect tax and information technology. He's a partner in Mahesh K. Agarwal & Co. Chartered Accountants, and he's heading the indirect tax vertical. He's a regular faculty for GST, for chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, and also students. He has also addressed various trade associations. You would have also seen him in, TV such as, NewsX channel, Aaj Tak, NDTV, Financial Express, Economic Times, etc. He's also been nominated as a special invitee to the GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI for 2020-21. So I'm really happy to have such a passionate and talented faculty today who will enlighten us with his knowledge. So I welcome you, Aditya.
Uh, Thank you, Ramya. So, yeah. So I think my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. So, first of all, good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Optotax and Voice of CA for giving me this opportunity to share this dice with Madhukar sir. In the past, I think so many years, Optotax and Voice of CA are doing a commendable job in enlightening all the professionals and uh, taxpayers at large about the latest provisions in GST and in the various changes in the laws. Madhukar sir, I think he has an experience of more than 3 decades, and in today's scenario, I think no one can be said as a GST expert. We can say that we are just a GST specialist. As said by sir, there are thousands of notifications, thousands of circulars that you need to be updated on daily basis. So maybe I have prepared GST implications on healthcare sector, but when I'm deliberating right now, there may be a situation that some new circular which affects the healthcare sector get issued by the CBIC. So let us start today's session. Before starting the session, I would like to say that we all know that GSTR 990 due date is approaching. Even though we know that now a CS certification is not mandatory, but we all know that CAs are generally doing the GSTR 99C. And I would like to say that filing of GSTR 99C is not the end, but start of the journey. And टुडे जिंदगी में मुश्किलों का आना पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ है एंड उससे हंसकर गुजर जाना पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ है. So my deliberation will be mixed, both Hindi and English, because I think this broadcasting is happening all over India. So it will be a mixed communication in both the languages, and I'll not take much time, and let us start today's session. So I try to sum up my presentation in an hour or so. I'll try to touch upon all the major points, all the major issues, and then Madhukar sir can add upon if required. So it will be a two-way communication. I'll request the audience, all the participants who have joined through Zoom or connected through YouTube, to be participative. I'll ask few questions, right? And then हम देख सकते हैं कि हम क्या same lines पे हैं या नहीं, right? So आज हम क्या क्या डिस्कस करेंगे? Registrations, returns, levy, place of supply, various notification regarding exemptions on healthcare services, various circulars issued to clarify the notifications, concept of free samples, as we know that in this pharma industry, particularly in the healthcare industry, there is a mechanism of free samples, free medicines. And as we know that COVID is still in the picture, so certain ITC eligibility of COVID related expenses and few case laws, right? So first of all, let us understand what are the issues related to registration under the healthcare sector. So I need participation of the audience. So we know that under section 22, 23 and 24, which covers the registration part, section 22 deals with the threshold limit, that is 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs as the case may be. So 20 lakhs is for the services and 40 lakhs for the goods, depending upon the states, right? And section 23 say that the following person shall not be liable to registration if that person is engaged exclusively in the business of supply of goods or services which are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax, right? Section 24 deals with the compulsory registration, right? When you are making an interstate supply or you have to pay tax under RCM and etc. So it says that notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 22, the following categories of persons shall be required to take registration, say persons who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. So now I would request all the participants to be with me and answer the question. Suppose a person is running a clinical establishment, right? He's running a clinical establishment and there is no output tax, no GST on the output side. So you have section 22, 23 and 24 in front of you. You have to tell me whether that person has to take GST registration in case he has taken some legal opinion from a law firm, whether he has to take GST registration and pay tax under RCM, even if his output tax is totally exempt from GST. I need your participation. Yes or no? एक पर्सन है जो एक क्लिनिकल एस्टैब्लिशमेंट चला रहा है, उसका आउटपुट पे कोई जीएसटी नहीं है, इट इज एग्जेम्प्ट. He has taken some legal opinion whether he has to take GST registration and pay under RCM or no. So there are mixed answers: yes, no, yes, no. Great.
Aditya, sorry to disturb you. Your video is not visible actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So we have mixed answers: yes, no, yes, no. So there are various advanced rulings, but if we see the section, I'll first tell you about the section. Let us read the section and then we will come upon the rulings regarding this particular issue. So when you see the drafting of section 24, which deals with the compulsory registration, it says notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 22. So when you read the section, it is overriding section 22 subsection 1, but not section 23. So in my view, registration is not compulsory even if section 24 conditions are applied, provided section 23 conditions are satisfied. That is my personal view, because section 24 is not overriding section 23, right? But if you see various authority of advanced rulings, and in case of Medivision Scan and Diagnostic Research Center, the same question was asked in the ruling, and the ruling said that even though the supplier is in the field of healthcare services, which is totally exempt, registration would be liable under section 9(3) and he has to pay the tax under RCM. So just to give a thought, there are two views. Which view you have to take for your clients? It is totally dependable on how you read the section and what is your point of view, right? Okay. Now, GST returns and important definitions. Again, I want your participation, right? Suppose you are filing a GST return of a hospital, right? So I need your participation in this also. You have to tell me, suppose that clinical establishment has an outward sale of say rupees 50 lakhs for the month of January, and you have to file your GST at 3B. You are filing the GST at 3B of that clinical establishment. In which column you will put that 50 lakh rupees? In zero rated, nil rated exempt, or in non-GST outward supply? A, B, C, D, E, in which column you will put it? Great. So at least my audience is attentive. They are participating. Great. So everyone has said C. Now, let us understand this with the definitions. See, when I go to various deliberation, even after 5 years of GST, there are still confusions among various professionals that whether what is the difference between zero rated, exempt, nil rated, non-taxable, or non-GST outward supply. So I'm connecting the definitions with the healthcare sector and with the returns, so that in case someone has any ambiguity or confusion, we get it cleared right now. So हम जब GST at 3B भरते हैं, even after 5 years, हमें ये नहीं पता होता कि ये हमें जो GST at 3B में उसको पुट करना है वो कहाँ पे पुट करना है. तो हमें उसको किस बॉक्स में पुट करना है, इट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हमें उस चीज की डेफिनेशन पता हो. अगर हमें उस चीज की डेफिनेशन ही नहीं पता होगी तो हम अपनी गलत रिटर्न्स भर रहे हैं और हम लिटिगेशन, डिपार्टमेंटल ऑडिट, इंक्वायरीज, समन्स को खुद इन्विटेशन दे रहे हैं, राइट? So zero rated supplies are meant for exports. So when you are doing any exports of goods or services, or if you are doing any exports to SEZ, so that is a zero rated supply. Exempt supply means supply of goods or services which attracts nil rate of tax, or which may be wholly exempt from the tax under section 11. So in later of my presentation, I'll tell you. So healthcare sector, it is a supply. Everything is supply in section 7. So when a hospital or a doctor is giving you any services, it is a supply, but it is exempted by the government via notification. We all know that all the notification related to services are in 12/2017, and all the rates are defined in 11/2017. So there is a specific notification in which the supply is being exempted. So that is an exempt supply. And non-taxable supply means goods or services which is not liable to tax under the IGST or the CGST Act. What is non-GST outward supply? That is, there is no supply. Schedule 1, activities which is neither supplier of goods nor a supplier of services, like employer-employee relationship, high C sales, right? So I think it is now crystal clear. Even I think all the answers were correct, but I still wanted to clear this fact because right? Okay. Now, so as per section 9 of the CGST Act, which tells about the levy and collection under the GST. So as discussed earlier in my presentation, everything is a supply, right? But there is a specific exemption 12/2017 in which the supply is being exempted. So the SAC code is 9993. It is under 18%. So generally all the healthcare services are exempt except certain residential care services. So the entry number is 74 that we will be discussing in detail, 73, 74 and 75. Right? Okay. Now, this is a bird eye view about the activities which are exempt and which are taxable in the healthcare sector. So suppose एक hospital है तो उसमें जो medicines होते हैं, consumables होते हैं, implants to inpatients होते हैं, that are part of the composite supply. So what are the composite supply? Composite supply is the principal supply, right? So अगर किसी patient का कोई treatment हो रहा है और उस patient को हम हेल्थ केयर की सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं हॉस्पिटल में, सो द मेन सर्विसेज जो डॉक्टर की सर्विसेज हो रही है, कंसल्टेशन की सर्विसेज हो रही है, दैट इज एग्जेम्प्ट बिकॉज दैट इज कवर्ड इन द हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज. बट हमारी जो एंसिलरी सर्विसेज उस ऑपरेशंस के लिए या उस ट्रीटमेंट के लिए दिए जा रहे हैं, मेडिसिन दी जा रही हैं, फूड दिया जा रहा है, द रूम रेंट चार्ज किया जा रहा है टू द पेशेंट, डायग्नोस्टिक हो रहा है, तो वो सारी चीजें एग्जेम्प्ट हैं, दैट आर पार्ट ऑफ द हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज. रिटेंशन मनी बाय द हॉस्पिटल, इस पे एक सर्कुलर भी आया है दैट वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग. जनरली होता क्या है कि जो हॉस्पिटल्स होते हैं वो कुछ एक रिटेंशन मनी अपने पास रख लेते हैं, से फॉर 50,000 और 1 लाख रुपीज, एंड उसमें से कुछ पोर्शन से अबाउट 25,000 रुपीज और 25% वो डॉक्टर्स के साथ शेयर कर लेते हैं और बाकी बैलेंस वो रख लेते हैं. तो उस पे भी देयर इज नो जीएसटी. दिस वाज क्लैरिफिकेटरी इन नेचर एंड इसके लिए हमारे पास सर्कुलर भी आया. नाउ सेल ऑफ मेडिसिन, अगर तो मेडिसिन उस ट्रीटमेंट उस पेशेंट के लिए जो इन पेशेंट है, जो आपका हॉस्पिटल में एडमिटेड है, दैट एंड मेडिसिन आर यूज्ड फॉर द ट्रीटमेंट, then it is a part of composite supply. The principal supply is healthcare services. There is no GST. There are various advanced rulings favoring the same opinion. But अगर कोई medicines बेच रहे हैं किसी hospital में, there is a shop और वहाँ पे medicines sale हुई है, then it is taxable. Food supply to visitors, right? Patients को अगर आपने treatment के time food supply किया, that is a part of healthcare services. But visitors के it is taxable. There may be a situation कि एक hospital में एक part of portion hospital ने rent out कर दिया है, अब उसको उससे rental income आ रही है, so that is not a healthcare services, right? अगर rental income आ रही है तो उस पे GST 18% taxable होगा, right? So there can be a situation कि एक hospital में, एक clinical establishment में there can be a taxable supply also, there can be an exempt supply also. Taxable supply में example rental income आ रही है, exempt supply में आपका health care की services जो हम treatment दे रहे हैं वो आ रही है, right? अगर कोई chemist की shop है, कोई pharmaceutical की shop है और वहां पे भी medicines बिक रही हैं, तो उससे भी आपको GST लगेगा, that would be regarded as a taxable sale, right? और जब हम आईटीसी की बात करते हैं, अभी अगर मैं थोड़ा सा इस पर डिस्कस करूं, सो योर आउटपुट इज टैक्सेबल एंड बोथ एग्जेम्प्ट. सो रूल 42-43 आपको लगाना है. इफ एनी ऑफ योर क्लाइंट इज इन हॉस्पिटल, देन हमें ऑडिट करते टाइम या जीएसटी हेल्थ चेकअप करते टाइम ये चीजों का ध्यान रखना है कि जो कॉमन इनपुट है हमारा, रूल 42-43 लगा के आपको उसको प्रोपोर्शनेट रिवर्सल भी करना है, राइट? So there is one question from Radha Krishan ji. In which column of GST 3B output supply of HSD or petrol must be shown? Sir, to my mind, to my knowledge, it will be shown in the non-GST outward supply. Right? Mohit ji, we will be discussing the rehabilitation centers. It is already covered in my presentation. Right? So place of supply. So place of supply of healthcare services. So consultancy services by doctors are exempt. Manmohan ji. I'll cover in my presentation, but it is exempt. Lokesh ji, where to show RCM supplies in GSTR 3B? So sir, to my mind, you have to, suppose if I'm telling you just, this is not my topic, but again, I'll try to answer your question. So suppose one of your client is a freight forwarder, right? And his supplies are under RCM, right? So while GSTR 3B, filing GSTR 3B, you have to put that figure in the taxable supply column, say 1 lakh rupees, but in the tax portion, it will be 0. It is an outward taxable supply, but there will be no tax. So just the taxable amount. And while filing GSTR1, you have to just click on the B2B button, B2B option, and you have to click on supplies attracting reverse charge. So your GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 will get matched up. I think I'm clear, Lokesh ji. Sir, portal will be allowing. If portal is not allowing, you just write down 0.1. It will take it. So round off होएगा और फिर वो 0 ले लेगा. Right? Okay, great. Now, place of supply of healthcare services. So where the location of supplier of services as well as the location of recipient of services in India. So in that scenario, location where the services are actually performed. So if the hospital is in Delhi and the patient is in Delhi, so the place of supply will be location where the treatment is performed. In case one of the recipient or supplier is outside India, then again where the services are actually performed. So suppose it can be an export of service. So for export of services, there are 5 conditions. Supplier is in India, right? Recipient is outside India, place of supply is outside India, foreign currency, and they should, service provider and recipient should not be merely establishment of distinct person. So if a doctor is going abroad for treatment of a foreign person, foreign national, and he is receiving that amount in foreign currency, it can be regarded as an export of service, right? Ganesh ji, ITC पे मैं आऊँगा sir. Wait for some time. Devender ji, I will share my presentation. Don't worry. So now comes the GST rate on the healthcare sector. So in as per notification 11/2017, so the SAC code 99931 99932, right? So 18% is the rate, but as per serial number 74 in the notification number 12/2017, there is a specific exemption in which there is no GST on all these services, right? Okay. So अब हम डिस्कस करेंगे एंट्री नंबर 74 of the notification number 12 of 2017, the exemption notification. Mohit ji, I'll cover, don't worry. सर प्रेजेंटेशन अभी बहुत बड़ी है, मैं सारे क्वेश्चंस अगर अभी लूंगा तो बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा, तो मैं जितना ट्राई कर सकता हूँ मैं अभी क्वेश्चंस लूंगा, अगर कुछ रह जाएंगे तो आई शेयर माय पर्सनल नंबर आल्सो, और अगर एंड में हमें टाइम मिलेगा आई थिंक तो हम तब भी उसको डिस्कस कर लेंगे, राइट? सो services by way of healthcare services by a clinical establishment, an authorized medical practitioner or paramedics, right? So paramedics कौन होते हैं? Any guesses? Audience again, chat box में आओ सर, paramedics कौन होते हैं? Any hints? Any guesses? Paramedics कौन होते हैं? Great. So nurses, physiotherapists, right? So these all are paramedics. Great. सर मैं आप लोगों को इसलिए बीच बीच में पिंग करता हूं कि कहीं आप लोग सो तो नहीं गए हैं, तो आप कभी ये मत सोचना है कि हमने इसको क्यों बुलाया, तो सारी चीजें हमसे ही पूछा जा रहा है। तो ये सब एक टू वे कम्युनिकेशन करने के लिए कि आप लोग सब लोग मेरे साथ होना, राइट? ग्रेट. सो healthcare services by a clinical establishment, right? Healthcare services भी defined है, clinical establishment भी defined है, authorized medical practitioner भी defined है, but paramedics defined नहीं है, right? Second, health services by way of transportation of a patient in an ambulance other than those specified in above, यानी कि जो भी एम्बुलेंस के सर्विसेज दे रहा है जरूरी नहीं है कि वो कोई क्लिनिकल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ही होनी चाहिए, अगर कोई प्राइवेट प्लेयर भी है जो एम्बुलेंस की सर्विसेज दे रहा है देन आल्सो इट इज एग्जेम्प्ट, राइट? ऑलरेडी हमने इसको कवर कर लिया, एम्बुलेंस की कोई भी सर्विसेज दे रहा है इवन अ प्राइवेट प्लेयर, इट इज टोटली एग्जेम्प्ट टू एनी पर्सन, सो रिसिपिएंट कैन बी एनी पर्सन, राइट? ओके, नाउ हेल्थ केयर की सर्विसेज की डेफिनेशन अभी हमने पढ़ा 74 सीरियल नंबर में. सो हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज मीन्स एंड इंक्लूड्स सर्विस बाय वे ऑफ डायग्नोसिस और ट्रीटमेंट और केयर फॉर इलनेस, इंजरी, प्रेगनेंसी इन एनी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिसिन इन इंडिया, एंड by way of transportation of patients to and from a clinical establishment, एम्बुलेंस की सर्विसेज हो गई, but does not include hair transplant or cosmetic or plastic surgery except when undertaken to restore or to reconstruct functions of body affected due to defects, birth defects, development abnormality, injury or trauma. तो हमारी हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज वाइडली सारी कवर हो गई, बट हेयर ट्रांसप्लांट, कॉस्मेटिक, प्लास्टिक सर्जरी, सो हेयर ट्रांसप्लांट इज सो कॉमन, तो हम अगर कोई हेयर ट्रांसप्लांट की सर्विसेज ले रहे हैं या हमने ली है तो इट इज नॉट एग्जेम्प्ट अंडर जीएसटी, इट इज नॉट अ हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज, उस पर जीएसटी लगेगा, राइट? प्लास्टिक सर्जरी पे भी नहीं लगेगा, अगर कोई ब्यूटिफिकेशन करा रहा है तो उस पर जीएसटी लगेगा, बट अगर कोई हमारी बॉडी का मेन पार्ट डैमेज हो गया है, कोई एसिड अटैक हो गया है, उसका कुछ आप ठीक करवा रहे हैं, कोई बर्थ इफेक्ट हो गया है, ट्रॉमा इंजरी, मेजर इंजरी के लिए उस चीज के लिए हो रहा है, देन इट इज पार्ट ऑफ हेल्थ केयर एंड जीएसटी एग्जेम्प्ट होगा, राइट? सो रिकॉग्नाइज्ड सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिसिन इंडिया, योगा, naturopathy, ayurveda, siddha, unani, so this is the recognized system of medicine in India. So dental clinic also, it is exempt under GST, right? Now, as per definition 2, clinical establishment, a hospital, nursing home, clinic, or any other institution by whatever name called, that offers services or facility requiring diagnosis or treatment of care for illness, injury, abnormality, pregnancy, in any recognized systems of medicine in India, जो भी मैंने discuss किया, or a place established as an independent entity to carry out diagnostic or investigate services of disease. यानी कि जो diagnostic center होते हैं, जो इतने सारे labs हैं जो diagnose करते हैं, इस सारे diagnostic center भी cover हो गए clinical establishment में, right? So dental का मैंने already बता दिया है, dental is also covered under exemption. There is no GST, right? Authorized medical practitioner means a medical practitioner registered with any of the council of the recognized system of medicine established or recognized by law, right? Or having the requisite qualification in any recognized system of medicine as per law for the time being force. Paramedics already हमने डिस्कस किया, आप लोगों ने खुद बताया, नर्सिंग स्टाफ, टेक्नीशियंस, लैब असिस्टेंट्स एटसेट्रा. अब तक किसी का कोई डाउट तो प्लीज मेरे को बताओ सर चैट बॉक्स में. विजय जी, वेलकम यू सर. विजय जी, सर आरसीएम पे मैंने अभी अपना प्रेजेंटेशन शुरू होते ही आई डेलिबरेटेड, सो आई थिंक आई हैव टेकन मच टाइम. तो आरसीएम का जहां तक पॉइंट है, देयर इज आल्सो अ सर्कुलर कि इफ जो डायरेक्टर है, पहले तो हमें ये देखना पड़ेगा कि हमारे पास रजिस्ट्रेशन है या नहीं. सो मेरा व्यू है कि रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं लेनी पड़ेगी, बट देयर आर सो मेनी रूलिंग्स जिसमें कहा है कि आपको जीएसटी लेनी पड़ेगी. तो अगर जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन आपके पास है और अगर कोई डायरेक्टर ने हॉस्पिटल को कोई सर्विसेज दी है, जो कि डायरेक्टर भी है खुद उस हॉस्पिटल में, तो आरसीएम लगेगा या नहीं लगेगा. अगेन यू हैव टू रेफर अ सर्कुलर जिसमें वो कहता है कि जो डायरेक्टर है वो एज अ सैलरी पे है, होल टाइम डायरेक्टर है, तो कोई जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप है, शेड्यूल 1. बट अगर प्रोफेशनल नेचर का है और उस पर टीडीएस कट रहा है under section 194J, then RCM will be applicable. Great. So nursing colleges educational institution में आ जाएंगे. तो as per my opinion, clinical establishment के मेरे को नहीं लगता कि वो आएंगे. But if you see the definition, it says any other institution. So it can be said कि वो उस clinical establishment में आ जाए, but we have to see कि exactly उनका क्या recognition है, right? Shinoy ji, yes. If you are receiving the amount in foreign currency, it will be regarded as an export of services. जनरल रूल लग जाएगा. जनरल रूल कहता है कि ये सर्विस रिसिपेंट जहां पे लोकेटेड है वो, तो प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई आउटसाइड इंडिया हो जाएगा. इट विल बी रिगार्डेड एज एन एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज. Physiotherapy centers, it will be regarded, I think, in clinical establishment. They are exempt. Sir, recognized course, I don't think so कि वो healthcare services का part बन जाएगा, because उसमें कोई treatment नहीं हो रहा है. यस सर, अगर हॉस्पिटल ने अपने प्रेमिसेस को रेंट पे दे दिया है विजय कुमार जी, देन जीएसटी विल बी एप्लीकेबल. मैंने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर दिया इसको, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट ए हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज, वो रेंटिंग सर्विसेज में चला गया, राइट? ओके, सो नाउ एंट्री नंबर 75. Entry number 75. Services provided by operators of common biomedical waste treatment facility to a clinical establishment of treatment of disposal of biomedical waste or the process. So अगर कोई service provider biomedical waste treatment के services दे रहा है, right, to a clinical establishment right? तो it is exempt under GST, right? जो हमारे हॉस्पिटल्स का जो भी ट्रीटमेंट का वेस्ट होता है, right? तो वो जो सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं, that is totally exempt under GST. Okay. Now, services provided by blood banks by way of preservation of stem cells, it is also covered in entry number 73. It is exempt under GST, right? तो service provider हो गया हमारा blood banks, preservation of cells, service recipient कोई भी हो सकता है. Service recipient जरूरी नहीं है कि कोई हॉस्पिटल हो या क्लिनिकल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट हो, it can be anyone, right? Okay. So now जो हमारे हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज फॉर एनिमल्स एंड बर्ड्स जो उनके क्लिनिक है, that is also covered under this notification, that is also exempt under GST. Okay. Now, services provided by rehabilitation professionals recognized under the Rehabilitation Councils of India by way of therapy, counseling or such activity as covered by the said act at medical establishment, educational institution established by the central government, right? So someone from the participant asked me about this, so that if there is any private professional for the rehabilitation professional, but he has to be recognized under the councils of the act, councils of the Indian Act 1922. Private हो सकता है, but he must be registered. He should have that degree, right? So the recipient can be medical establishment, educational institutions, rehabilitation centers established by the state or central government. Any questions till now? I'm trying to cover all the questions which can be covered till now to avoid any pendency at the later of my presentation. Okay. So now important circulars. So circular number 32/06/2018. So what was the issue that was cleared in that circular? So हॉस्पिटल हायर करता है डॉक्टर्स को, टेक्नीशियंस को, इंडिपेंडेंटली करता है, देयर में भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं भी होते हैं. तो जो कंसल्टेंसी के चार्जेस जो हॉस्पिटल देता है टू दैट कंसल्टेंट, टू दैट डॉक्टर्स, टेक्नीशियंस, तो इश्यू क्या ये आया कि क्या उनकी सर्विसेज भी एग्जेम्प्ट है जीएसटी में, वो भी हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज मानी जाएगी? यस. सो सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड बाय द सीनियर टेक्नीशियंस, whether employees or not, they can be a consultant, are healthcare services and it is totally exempt under GST. Yes, Mohit ji, because the notification says the recipient must be the specific recipient as mentioned in the notification. So if it is given to general public, it is not exempt. Okay. So second point is retention money. We have already discussed, right? कि जनरली ये आप देखोगे गंगाराम हॉस्पिटल में होता है कि हॉस्पिटल में वो पेशेंट से एक अमाउंट चार्ज कर लेते हैं और कंसल्टेंट्स को उसमें से कुछ पोर्शन दे देते हैं, बाकी पोर्शंस वो अपने हॉस्पिटल के लिए रख लेते हैं फॉर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, केयर एटसेट्रा. सो सर्कुलर में क्लैरिफाई किया गया कि जो भी ये रिटेंशन मनी भी है, इट इज पार्ट ऑफ द हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज, हेल्थ केयर कंसिडरेशन, that is also totally exempt under GST. There will be no GST on the retention money also by the hospitals, right? Now, food supply to the patients. इसके लिए एडवांस रूलिंग भी आई और इट इज वेरी क्लियर नाउ एंड सर्कुलर भी है. सो जो भी हमारे हॉस्पिटल्स हैं, क्लिनिकल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स हैं, जो फूड सप्लाई करती हैं पेशेंट्स को, जो भी वहाँ पे एडमिट होते हैं फॉर द ट्रीटमेंट, राइट, तो इट इज पार्ट ऑफ द ट्रीटमेंट. जो भी उनको बिलिंग करी जाएगी, इट इज पार्ट ऑफ द कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई. तो जो भी पेशेंट्स को आपने फूड दिया है, मेडिसिन दी है, इट इज पार्ट ऑफ द हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज एंड इट विल नॉट बी सेपरेटली टैक्सेबल. बट जो आपके आउटबाउंड पेशेंट्स हैं, राइट, जो आपके बाहर की बार जिनका आपने ट्रीटमेंट किया है, आपने अगर उनको कोई मेडिसिन दिया है या फूड दिया है, so that will be taxable, right? Any questions till now? Okay. So now the second circular, circular number 92, which says free samples and gifts. So it is a common practice. We all know that in this pharma industry, various drug samples, free samples दिए जाते हैं without any consideration. So free of cost supply की जाती है, right? So हम इसको example से भी अभी समझेंगे nutshell में. तो अगर हम free samples दे रहे हैं तो obviously हम कुछ charge नहीं कर रहे हैं. So it is, there can be two possibilities. अगर कोई consideration charge नहीं हो रही, so it is not a supply, right? तो supply qualify नहीं होगी because consideration नहीं है, right? But clause H of subsection 5 और section 17 क्या कहता है कि ITC अवेलेबल नहीं होएगा in respects of goods lost, stolen, destroyed और gift और free samples, right? तो अगर आपने free samples दी हैं, right, हॉस्पिटल ने free samples दी हैं अपने डॉक्टर्स को, अपने कस्टमर्स को, डीलर्स को, तो आपको उस पे ITC का रिवर्सल जरूर करना पड़ेगा, right? So there can be two scenarios. Just have a look in this table. So पहले केस में pay GST on sample and avail ITC schedule 1 entry 1 valuation as per the valuation rules. और free sample case 2 क्या हो सकता है कि आपने आउटपुट पे कोई टैक्स नहीं दिया, आपको ITC रिवर्सल करना पड़ेगा, क्रेडिट इज ब्लॉक्ड, राइट? Now circular number 72/46. मैं अब थोड़ा सा फास्ट चलूंगा बिकॉज प्रेजेंटेशन में भी बहुत सारा कंटेंट है एंड आई हैव टू कवर इन द लिमिटेड टाइम. सो सर्कुलर नंबर 72 which specifies the circular to clarify the procedure in respect of return of expired drugs or medicines. So there can be three possibilities. जो सर्कुलर है सर उसको डायग्रामेटिकली मैंने प्रेजेंटेशन में डाल दिया है ताकि टू गेट अ बेटर प्रेजेंटेशन, राइट? सो इन फर्स्ट सिनेरियो, सपोज फॉर द मैन्युफैक्चरर द कॉस्ट ऑफ द मेडिसिन इज 80 rupees and he has availed ITC of say 4 rupees and the rate of taxation is say 5%. सो मैन्युफैक्चरर ने होलसेलर को सेल किया 90 रुपीज पे, टैक्स लगा 4.5, होलसेलर ने 95 सेल किया, टैक्स लगा 4.75. नाउ देयर कैन बी टू सिचुएशंस, राइट? तो अगर रिटेलर रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन है तो वो फ्रेश सप्लाई कर देगा टू द मैन्युफैक्चरर, यानी कि जो रिटेलर है वो सेल कर देगा होलसेलर को, होलसेलर कर देगा मैन्युफैक्चरर को, और अगेन स्टॉक राइट ऑफ होएगा, मेडिसिन डिस्ट्रॉय होएगी, 17(5)(h) पिक्चर में आ जाएगा, ITC रिवर्सल करना पड़ेगा मैन्युफैक्चरर को. यानी कि पहले सिनेरियो में अगर रिटेलर रजिस्टर्ड है तो वो अपनी एक फ्रेश सेल काट देगा उसी पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट की जो उसको मिला था, राइट? तो एक फ्रेश सप्लाई ट्रीट हो जाएगा ITC सब input ले लेंगे. Manufacturer, we have to be very attentive. जो ITC रिवर्स होएगा वो ओरिजिनल अमाउंट का नहीं होएगा, 4 रुपीज नहीं रिवर्स होएगा मैन्युफैक्चरर के एंड पे. जो उसने फ्रेश रिसीव कराया आईटीसी 4.75 रुपीज, that is charged by the wholesaler to the manufacturer. 4.75 रुपीज मैन्युफैक्चरर को रिवर्सल करना पड़ेगा, राइट? Now, second scenario, if the retailer is unregistered. If he is unregistered, obviously उस पे वो GST का तो इनवॉइस दे नहीं सकता, तो बेसिकली कमर्शियल इनवॉइस देगा, बिल ऑफ सप्लाई देगा. 99.75 रुपीज उस पे चार्ज होके आया था पूरा, वो होलसेलर को दे देगा. कॉम्पोजिट डीलर या अनरजिस्टर्ड डीलर, एज इज द केस में भी, 99.75 पे होलसेलर को मिल गया, होलसेलर ने मैन्युफैक्चरर को दे दिया. एट द एंड ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चर देयर विल बी नो रिवर्सल, क्योंकि कोई क्रेडिट ही नहीं अवेल हुआ, right? Am I clear? Okay. And in third scenario can be a credit note. So हो सकता है जो रिटेलर है वो फ्रेश सप्लाई, फ्रेश सेल इनवॉइस ना काटे. In substitute he may issue a GST credit note. तो क्रेडिट नोट वो देगा, तो जो रिस्पेक्टिव GST उस पे लगा है वो कॉरस्पॉन्डिंगली वो चार्ज होता रहेगा, और जो फाइनल होएगा वो 4 रुपीज आपका बेसिकली रिवर्सल हो जाएगा, राइट? अब देयर कैन बी सिचुएशन की सपोज फॉर अप्रैल, फॉर द फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2021 वी ऑल नो दैट सितंबर तक आपको GST 3B 20 अक्टूबर तक फाइल करनी होती है. उसके बिटवीन आपने अगर आपका एक्सपायर्ड मेडिसिन जारी है तो जो क्रेडिट नोट इश्यू होगा दैट कैन बी ऑफ GST क्रेडिट नोट. बट अगर उस पीरियड के बाद हुआ है तो आपको जो ये सारी एडजस्टमेंट होगी क्रेडिट नोट की, दैट विल बी विदाउट GST, तो कमर्शियल क्रेडिट नोट पे चलेगा. सो इन शॉर्ट, अगर क्रेडिट नोट से एक्सपायर्ड मेडिसिन का एडजस्टमेंट होनी है, अगर विद इन सितंबर तक हो गया है, 6 months फ्रॉम द एंड ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल ईयर तक हो गया है, तो वो GST का क्रेडिट नोट से होएगा एडजस्टमेंट. अगर उसके बाद होना है फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पीरियड, तो वो कमर्शियल क्रेडिट नोट पे होगा. तो ये तीनों चीजें सर्कुलर ने क्लेरिफाई करी. एम आई क्लियर? यस विपुल जी, होलसेलर इज रजिस्टर्ड. मैं बात कर रहा हूं जो रिटेलर है वो अनरजिस्टर्ड है या वो कॉम्पोजिट डीलर है. सर इन फर्स्ट केस, सॉरी, ये जो आई थिंक इट इज सम एरर, जो ये 95 की जगह 90 होएगा. सो मैन इन फ्रेश सेकंड लाइन सेल मैन्युफैक्चरर टू होलसेलर की जो आ रही है वो दैट इज फॉर 90 रुपीज एंड नीचे 4.5 रुपीज ही आएगा. सो वो प्रेजेंटेशन में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुई है, इसकी वजह से ये हो रहा है, राइट? तो कुछ क्लरिकल एरर हो गया इसमें. ओके, नाउ important case laws, healthcare sector. Now, Shri Gangaram Hospital, again, healthcare services हम ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, सर्कुलर में क्लियर हो गया है. फॉर द कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल बेसिस, जो डॉक्टर्स को who are engaged on contractual basis, so whether the services provided that to the hospitals, whether it will be regarded whether there will be any tax or not. So there will be no tax, no GST. So it was clear in the circular itself, right? Navinji, I will share my PPT, don't worry. Now, in case of JC Genetic India Private Limited, right? So the applicant has collaborated with the diagnostic companies right? So they basically JC Genetic India Private Limited were not themselves a clinical establishment, right? So the question was whether their services will be regarded as an healthcare services by a clinical establishment. So the answer was that GST would be leviable. Healthcare services provided by a company which is not an independent clinical establishment, right? Then there will be no exemption in the GST. So qualification of an independent clinical establishment बहुत जरूरी है, right? Collaboration करने से नहीं होएगा, basically सब contracting करने से नहीं होएगा, right? Okay. Now, again, in case of Kerala Authority of Advance Ruling, we have already covered in the circular itself, right? Ki a single invoice was raised for the treatment, right? Carrying all the facilities related to medicines, room rent, food, treatment, right? So it was a bundle of supply. So the principal supply was healthcare services, right? So whether it is an exempt in the tax, exempt in GST, yes, it is a composite supply. Principal supply is of healthcare services. So a single invoice covering all the aspects, everything, there will be no GST, right? But sale of supply of medicines and elite items to outpatients which are not admitted in the hospitals. कोई बाहर का पेशेंट आ रहा है, उसने कुछ सप्लाईज ली वहां से, आपके शॉप से कुछ मेडिसिन ली, then GST will be leviable. It is normal sale, right? Okay. So ये again therapeutics, right? इसमें the question was whether medical team of applicant involved in complete cycle, hence they facilitate diagnosis process. Again, जो आपका diagnostic का process है, we have already covered. They are part of the clinical establishment and there will be no GST, nil rate of central tax, right? डायग्नोस्टिक सेंटर ऑलरेडी हमारे क्लिनिकल एस्टैब्लिशमेंट में कवर होता है, तो देयर विल बी नो जीएसटी ऑन देयर सर्विसेज, राइट? Again, Velour Association, it is again a composite supply. Already we have discussed it. So there are numerous advanced rulings favoring this judgment, favoring this issue, right? Now, ITC eligibility on COVID-19 related expenses, right? So first of all, we have to understand section 17.5, the blocked credit part. So for basically the COVID-19 related expenses, they were generally mask, sanitization, medical insurance, right? So ये कुछ 4-5 तरीके के हमारे expenses थे, right? Now we all know that to avail the credit, you have to fulfill the conditions of 16 subsection 2, and simultaneously you have to check whether there are any blocked credits, that services or goods is under blocked credit under section 17. So when you read 17 subsection 1, subsection 5, entry number 1, it says that ITC shall not be available in respect of the following: food and beverages, health services, cosmetic and plastic surgery, life insurance and health insurance, right? But provided that the input tax credit in respect of such goods or services or both shall be available where it is obligatory for an employer to provide the same to its employees under any law for the time being in force. तो सर हम सबको याद होगा कोविड के टाइम guidelines were issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs, right? So the order was dated 15th April 2020, which specified that all the industrial and commercial establishments, workplaces, offices shall require to obtain medical insurance for the workers. Right? उन्होंने employees को cover नहीं किया, so the line was medical insurance for the workers. So medical insurance would be a part of the health insurance. ITC would be permitted if obtaining such medical insurance was mandatory. तो उस पीरियड में ड्यू टू कोविड मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स की गाइडलाइन आई जिसपे उन्होंने हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस को मैंडेटरी करा लेना, मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस फॉर द वर्कर्स. उसके बाद 17 मई 2020 को एक और ऑर्डर आया जिसमें उन्होंने अर्लियर ऑर्डर को सीज कर दिया विद इफेक्ट फ्रॉम 18 मई 2020, जिसकी उस वाले ऑर्डर में ये गाइडलाइन नहीं थी कि आपको मैंडेटरी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस लेना है. तो इन कंक्लूजन मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस वाज ऑब्लिगेटरी by the government from 15th April 20 to 17th May 20, roughly 1 month. तो इस पीरियड के बीच में जितना भी प्रीमियम वाज पेड would be eligible. Therefore, ITC shall be available on the expense incurred due to mandatory obligation. Right? So इस पीरियड के बीच में अगर कोई पॉलिसी ली गई है, कोई मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस ली गई है फॉर द वर्कर्स, उस केस में ITC will be eligible. Right? In other scenarios, अगर उस दूसरे पीरियड का हुआ है तो ITC एलिजिबल नहीं होएगा ड्यू टू 17/5. Right? Also, ITC for the individual policy taken for the family members of the employees would not be available as coverage of family member was not obligatory in nature. Right? So to sum up, in view of the above provision, post-COVID following expenses, ITC is allowed. This is the short table. तो आज की डेट में अगर कोई सैनिटाइजेशन, मास्क, क्लीनिंग, टेम्परेचर, स्क्रीनिंग फैसिलिटीज, थर्मामीटर्स, इसका आपको इनपुट, इट इज एलिजिबल. मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस ऑफ वर्कर नॉट एलिजिबल. Eligible if already discussed, done during the mandatory period. Right? Disinfection of offices eligible. Life insurance of employees not eligible. Food beverages not eligible. Group medical health policy eligible because it is mandatory as per section 38 of the Employee State Insurance Act. तो ये यहां से नहीं आ रहा है, ये ESI एक्ट से आ रहा है. Right? Okay. So thank you so much. This is my contact details. You can ping me anytime if you have any questions related to GST, and I'll share my presentation to the organizers. And if you have any questions, I've tried to take as many questions that I was able to take in between my presentation. And if any questions we can take up now, or now I hand over the further to Ramya for taking the webinar forward.
Thank you so much, C. Aditya Agarwal, for your wonderful presentation, as well as making the deliberation very interactive. As you have seen, from the beginning till the end, the audience was very interactive. So thank you so much, and thank you for clarifying all the doubts as well. So I'd like to call upon CA Madhukar Hiregange to take it forward, sir, for any remarks.
Yeah, Thanks a lot. Ramya, Aditya, you may have to remove that PowerPoint. Yeah, thanks a lot. So I think Aditya has done a wonderful job. First of all, the fact that he's a expert at technology as well as GST is a amazing, awesome combination. I have been finding, the chartered accountant with tech, with law, as somebody in GST who cannot be replaced at all. So I think he's on the way to become one of the top service providers in the country. Some thoughts I thought I will spend, because many times what happens is that clients come to us for advice. One of the ways in which we can give advice is that we don't pre-decide something. हाँ ये exempt है, हाँ ये तो medical service ही है. Let us not decide anything. Let's look at all the alternative classifications. Aditya has actually taken us through many of the entries. Look at all the entries which are possible first, and then look at what you should do. There is a very old joke which I used to tell. It's a real life incident when my children were growing about 20 years back. We at that time thoda kadki tha, not too well off. And so I wanted to save some money for some gifts. So I took them to a cheaper place than the normal, place where everybody goes. When we were going there, we finally went, and finally I got something for 500 rupees in those days. And I was very happy that I saved around 500 rupees. Then we just walked down the road. My children said, why don't we go to one of these shops where there are mannequins outside? We will not go inside, Papa. I know you won't allow us to go inside. Outside only we'll see and come. I said, kya kharcha nahi hai, kuch nahi hai, chalo. While going, we saw one hotel was coming up. And my children asked me, what is this? Then I told them this is a 5-star hotel. बहुत expensive होता है, ये होता है. Then I made the mistake of saying I went to a few 5-star hotels, but that was, client के expense पर गए थे. Then they said, why not we go? Then I said, no, I can't afford all this. Then my wife said, yeah, I think once in a lifetime we can afford. So reluctantly I went inside. Then we were looking at the menu. So while my children were making, my wife and children were going berserk, I was looking at the cost, which is the right-hand side, where the rates for your GST also you can look at. So I was looking at the right-hand side, and finally we had dal roti. And when we came out, my wife said, thank you very much. I don't want you to take me to a 5-star ever. So actually, after spending 3,000 rupees, I lost out on everything. This is just a joke. This is an incident. But the important thing is, look at the left-hand side first, understand that, then only look at the right-hand side. Aditya rightly emphasized, that who provides it is very important. If I am providing medical services, I will not get any exemption. I'm a chartered accountant. How can I'm not a medical practitioner, etc. Then if fee share is there, it depends on where is the fee share, between whom. Is it a fee share between the doctor and the hospital? Then both are providing medical services. But if it is not a fee share between them, it is the manufacturer of the implant or the shop down the road where I practice, who gives me some extra money on a regular basis. Based on whatever his sale is there, he gives me something as a doctor. That amount which I receive is certainly not a medical service. One thought which I was wondering, all of you could take some advantage of, is composite supply in GST is not very clear. The education guide of service tax is very useful, where you can look at the reasonable expectation for understanding what is it that is say a bundled service. It is also what is accepted in the region, what is accepted in a group. Anything which goes to enhance the main service, anything which is supplied in conjunction with the main service, whether under one invoice or two invoices, would be very important. Say it's optional, that would be important. How it is advertised, I'll give you an example. I'd gone to one particular, maybe 20 years back, service tax. I was called by some yoga, one of these people who used to do yoga therapy, etc. So while going to that place, I saw big billboards all talking about wellness and fitness and all with that Ayurvedic center. When I went there, I found everybody who comes there goes to a doctor first. Then the doctor says, these are the massages you should have with the following oils. These are the type of yoga which you should do. Everything was prescription based. Then I gave an opinion, except for your advertisement, everything else seems to be a exempted service. So it's very important how we bill, how the advertisement looks, what does it say on your website, what is the email correspondence with the customer. Are you saying we are a spa, we also provide health services? If we look at commission referral paid by medical shops or diagnostics, implants, that is more in the nature of marketing, and therefore that will be liable. One of the points which I thought I should push a bit is that whenever I make a claim for exemption and by chance that exemption is not there, the rate of GST is 18%. You're talking about 18% on the total amount. Then you're talking about interest. Interest will be at again 18% on that amount. 5 years or 6 years after the event, if a demand is made, then you have to pay 6 into 18, which is again 100. Penalty also possible if you have not made any disclosures properly, which I had recommended, or been in touch with the department, or have a valid reason to say why you believe it was not liable. So you're talking about 250% of 18%, which would possibly be far beyond what is possible. What is the money you have? So you will get destroyed. The cost of litigation also is quite prohibitive. It takes a long time. Also, by the time that ITC, you won't have bothered about ITC because you think that it is not liable. One more thing is, whenever you have all these impacts, you lose your image with the department, not only for the GST part, you lose it with others also. Immediately income tax will look at you, because if you have done something wrong in GST, they are all close, they are all cousins. They sit next to each other in North Block, so they will talk, exchange notes, and there is also a facility for exchanging the information. I think one or two landmark decisions of the past are important. Dilip Kumar was one case which is being used by the department and also the DGCI very frequently. What they say is, if you are taking an exemption, then you have to look at it very strictly. This was from 2018, it created a lot of havoc till 2020. When we had one more case, again by the Supreme Court, Mother Superior Adoration Convent. Here, the judges, while not differentiating the Dilip Kumar judgment, they looked at a particular thought process. They said, if a particular exemption is a general exemption, then Dilip Kumar applies. However, wherever there is an exemption which has a beneficial purpose, so if you look at the healthcare sector, the various notifications shown by Aditya, you will find that there is a purpose there to see that healthcare is not prohibitive. And therefore, what decision was taken in Mother Superior probably is applicable to the healthcare sector may not be the pharmaceutical sector. These two sectors are different. I would also like to look at some other decisions where we have talked about cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery. So bariatric surgery is also one of the ways in which you remove the fat from the body. And it has a lot of advantages. It brings down the diabetes. Obesity itself is a disease, actually. And therefore, continuing to be obese can cause problems in arthritis and many other areas. There is also a decision of Coconut Lagoon, Kumarkom, where though it was a very luxury type of place, spa type of place, we have gone there sometime, many years back, and they also have treatment. So if the treatment is as per a prescription of a doctor, and they had about 7-8 doctors, and of course, many health specialists, etc. Then there is, if it is under a prescription, then it would be healthcare, otherwise it would not be. Even under Methena Charitable Trust, the AP High Court said spreading awareness about preventive healthcare, holistic health, which is provided, all covered. Gangaram, anyway, I'm not going to discuss since Aditya has already touched on that. Slim and slender, there was no doctor. Therefore, it was not healthcare, though they professed that it is also healthcare. Their bill said healthcare, but it was not healthcare. As far as ITC is concerned, I thought I'll touch on a few things before we can open for the question answers. The first thing is that if we look at a pharmaceutical company, it may have lifts, it may have clean rooms, it may have labs. Now, clean room and lab would be said to be a plant itself. There are a lot of cases under income tax which have also, what I would say, persuasive value. Supreme Court in Jawahar Mills, a central excise case, it says that precedents in income tax can be considered for the purpose of central excise, that is at that time mod-vat credit, wherever it's in line with the provisions. So therefore, these two are very clearly available. Lifts, AC plant, power plant, access control system in that particular factory, all that would be eligible, clearly eligible. Then there is a second part. What about the steel cement which goes into the building? Now that building is certainly required for that factory, pharmaceutical factory. Without the building, they cannot produce. So in that case, there was a doubt by the department, and when somebody had claimed this in Safari Retreat, it was a hospitality industry, they said that steel, cement, etc. is required, whatever I use for the resort, and it should be eligible. The reason why they said it is that ITC is a right. It is a privilege which cannot be removed by the government. However, provisions which exclude can prevent it is what we understand. But as far as steel and cement are concerned, the provision itself was challenged. It was challenged on the basis of Article 14 of the Constitution, where they said when a builder, when he wants to sell the building, you are allowing him credit. If he wants to rent out the building, you are not allowing him the credit, which is not correct, which is logical. This is before the Supreme Court now. Orissa High Court had said it. So hundreds of our clients have availed this credit and kept it either in abeyance. Those who have a lot of cash flow problem, who don't mind taking the risk, have availed the credit and utilized it also. What about the taxable healthcare, wellness, fitness centers? Can they take credit for all these? The lifts, the equipment, of course, the steel and cement used in the building, of course they can. As far as a batch loss is there. Now you're a pharmaceutical company, you have a whole batch gets lost. because it's not come up to the level, then it's destroyed. So those medicines are not removed from the factory at all. What happens to the ITC on that? There are n number of cases in excise and also in GST, a couple have come, where if it is a production loss, there is no problem at all. ITC cannot be denied. It will not be excluded under 17(5). What happens to expired medicines? I have a thought process here and an option which you could examine, and if you find it is something which is plausible and possible, then you should go to somebody and take a written opinion and go forward. The shopkeeper or the distributor will sell it to the company. Now you cannot sell expired drugs. I saw one comment was there in the chat also. But you can put there that expired drugs being returned to the manufacturers and bill them the full amount. Then what happens is the manufacturer avails the credit, and if after he avails the credit, he will reverse the ITC which he had taken, if he so wants. Now here there are some lot of questions on whether he should reverse the ITC at all, because expiry of drugs is a part of business. 1 or 2% of the drugs do get expired and they come back to you. So is it not part of business? There is a question on that. Let's look at samples which also are discussed. Samples come in two varieties. One is a quality control sample. That is, some quantity of the drug is removed and kept aside because it has to be kept aside batch wise. It is part of the production process. Therefore, there has to be eligibility for that. Physician samples, which are manufactured and distributed. In our understanding, if I'm manufacturing something and then I'm supplying it to a unrelated person. What do I mean by unrelated? Unrelated as per law. So if I have a distributor who is not related to me and I am giving him samples free of cost and telling him you can distribute it as you want, I'm not charging him anything. So he's an unrelated person to whom I'm removing. And therefore, the question about me reversing the credit is not there at all. However, I'm quite sure department will not agree on this, and this may have to go to the high courts and also the Supreme Court. But this is my considered opinion that if I'm a manufacturer, then there is possibility that I don't have to reverse any credit at all. However, if I'm trading, it is hit by the 17(5) restrictions. So I have bought this, I am a distributor basically. I have bought some medicines. Out of the medicines I bought, some part of it I'm giving as samples to my distributors, sub-distributors, or even the retailers. In such case, I have to reverse the credit immediately. What happens to donations? As a part of the exercise in a company, donations are given. I manufacture something and then I donate it. If I am donating it to unrelated person, it is just like a physician sample which I am giving it to unrelated person, and therefore there is no consideration and there is no levy also. What about promotional gifts? Recently, I told you, see, there was an income tax case that the CBDT has brought out a circular, and in this Apex Laboratories case, there is the deduction for promotional gifts have been disallowed. CBIC also may bring out a parallel circular in due course of time. This is how you look into the future. Whenever you see some case, this case I think was decided a couple of days back, and my understanding is CBIC also will see this. They will bring out one circular saying that it is as in Apex Laboratories case, income tax, this is what is said, and therefore such credit was never available. Promotional gifts given to the distributors or the retailers is not eligible, and they will make a retrospective applicability and deny the credits on all promotional items. In my understanding, again, my limited understanding, I should say, I would say that the laws, each law has its own objective and they have their own restrictions. So if at all they have to bring about a restriction for this, they have to bring it about by amending the section and putting the restriction. They cannot simply issue a circular and tell you to reverse it. So this is also something which I expect problems to come up. Another thought on whenever you have taxable, non-taxable, like I am talking about the hospitals. Now you have some small part of taxable service, you have some most parts non-taxable. How can you manage it? One of the practical suggestions I have for my clients is have one more concern. Taxable you provide only through that concern. Whatever it receives will come with GST. They will take the credit, they will discharge the GST. Whatever is not taxable, don't bother. In case you are not able to break up the enterprises into two, then the second suggestion is separate procurement for taxable separately so that there is no confusion with the non-taxable, and common credits use rule 42 to do go ahead. There is a restriction in 17.5 on writing off in stocks. Pharma companies may have this problem. Pharmacies may have this problem. What if I write off these stocks? Ingersoll Rand 2014 decision says writing off these stocks while these stocks are physically available, not that you throw it out. If you dispose it, you have to reverse the credit. If you are not reversing, say my total stocks of my raw material is 100 rupees. And as a measure of abundant caution, since some of them are slow moving or non-moving for 1 or 2 years, I am saying that 75% I'm going to write off, which is 75 rupees. Then should I reverse the credit on that 75 rupees? The answer is no. Even if it is 99 rupees, you need not reverse. I would suggest keep at least 1 rupee to avoid dispute. What about CSR? CSR, has become a big issue. So if there's a manufacturing company and they are manufacturing medicines, and if they are doing the CSR of distributing that medicines to various people, it would also be a transfer to an unrelated person, and therefore the levy itself is not attracted. Similarly for services. So if it is CSR, it is certainly for business because it is mandatory. Anything which is mandatory is for the purpose of business. And if it is not for any consideration, there is no problem at all. Even if it is given free, your ITC will be eligible. However, if you buy and sell, again you will be hit by the restrictions which are there in GST law. I would like to end up by saying there's a small book we have written. Actually, I have only looked at the index and done a bit of editing in the end. But this is a nice book which you may like to refer to. Thank you very much. This is my small bit of addition or whatever you say to what Aditya had done. So we can get back to the session.
Thank you so much, sir. If there are any doubts from the audience, maybe we can take it up.
Some of it, I think, was earlier only. Aditya, you would like to answer those? If there is a need only, I will intervene.
I think, sir, I have covered most of the questions.
You have covered, is it?
Yeah. I've also shared my number in case anyone... Actually, I was answering few of the questions on WhatsApp only.
Oh, okay. Good.
So,
yeah.
I think most of
there is one question here. Lab service provider gets commission from company. Say Dr. Lal Path Labs. Will it be... You have answered this?
I think I have not answered that question.
So it will be liable because
Yeah,
it's not a
yeah.
medical
So it
service.
will be liable to GST. Yeah.
So let's look at anything else. For construction of warehouse, my output service is renting a warehouse. I have engaged contractor and he busy all the time.
So
like,
it is not related to healthcare sector, sir.
and he charges up. In my understanding, this is exactly what I told you. There is no clear-cut answer for this, but Orissa High Court gives a good reasoning
Yes.
for this.
Yes.
And if you want, you can look at one of the earlier cases, Sai Samita, which was basically a warehouse only, where they took the credit of steel and cement. So in my understanding, this is also something you can avail the credit. Depending on the risk appetite, you will have to decide what to do because amounts are big. I have a couple of builders where the credit itself is 450 crores. But that particular entity has said that we cannot afford to leave this. So they have utilized that entire 450 crores. I have another entity which is just about 50 crores. There they have taken 50 crores credit. They have said we don't want any dispute. We will avail it and we will reverse it under protest. And they are all waiting for the Supreme Court decision. The day it comes, these people who have reversed under protest will have a bonanza of 50 crores. In case it goes against, then that first client who has taken 450 crores, he is going to close down his business because it will be 450 crores. He has utilized it fully. The demand will come maybe in 2025. So he will possibly have to reverse around 1,500 crores, and which possibly will destroy him. Now, the question is, how do you work in between? What I had said in my small presentation was, please break up your credits into various parts. For example, if I am having a pharmaceutical company, if my walls, if my foundation, it has certain specifications to hold that machine which I have got. I might have installed massive crushers. Then my foundation has to be maybe 5 feet. It is specific to that machine. Capitalize it with the machine itself. Now, as chartered accountants who are listening on to this, some of them are chartered accountants, I understand, yeah? And assuming that they are, you understand that when anything goes into a plant and machinery category, all the expenses around it, like the special pillars, the special foundation, all that also can be capitalized to the machinery. And therefore, in those cases, there is no doubt at all. Then there is a small doubt area, which is those which are affixed to the building, like hoists, like lifts. There may be some issue. But plant and machinery, air conditioning equipment, power plant, all these clearly available. Chiller plant, all these are clearly available credits. There's no problem at all. Something which is part of the building, if it can also be separated. For example, the contractor will give a specific bill for the installation of lift, etc. Possibly you have a good chance there. As far as steel and cement is concerned, there you are taking credit based on your risk appetite. I hope it answers the question of somebody who's called BB. Let me see.
So someone is asking, sale of expiry goods is prohibited under Drugs and Cosmetics Act.
Yeah, it is prohibited, no? But you are not selling it. You are giving it back to the company.
Exactly.
You are going to say that I am returning the expired goods to the company, which is in compliance with the Drugs and Cosmetics Act.
Correct.
You can't destroy it yourself. Retailer cannot say I have destroyed it. That's not acceptable to the company also, because he will say I have destroyed such and such. He would have sold all those. So there are a lot. It has to be sent back to the company, and it can. One of the ways is to bill back the company, and if the company is manufacturing those drugs, they will take the credit and then they will reverse the ITC for that, which will be substantial saving. You know, pharmaceutical companies Some of the drugs which are selling at 100 rupees, cost of production of that drug is 2 rupees. What will be the GST then in that? 36 paisa. It makes a huge difference. So that is something which can be thought about, but all these specific cases, documentation has to be seen, contracts have to be seen, and then some risk appetite of the client also comes into being.
There's another one over here. Any inputs on loan license?
What inputs? I don't know. What is the question? I didn't get. If he gives the question, I will not be able to answer.
Rijwani ji, if you would like to elaborate on your question, the speakers would be taking it.
If we can. We are not God here. As Aditya said, there are no experts in GST. Some of us know a little more. That's all.
Yeah.
Psychology doctor, I think you have told already, na? Aditya. Yeah. Anything. In India, there are so many types of, cure. Acupressure, there is some deep tissue massage. Anything which is a treatment is eligible as long as you are doing, it is a clinical establishment. And what is a clinical establishment has also been, what I would say, liberally understood by the courts, even in the service tax era.
I think everything has been answered, sir.
Okay, then we will give it back to the two wonderful ladies.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you to both the guest of honor, C. Madhukar Hiregange, as well as our faculty, C. Aditya Agarwal, for such a wonderful and interactive session. I hope this would have been enjoyable and knowledgeable to all of us. It was for me, definitely. So thank you for all the audience who have attended today, as well as those who are continuously attending each and every session. It's very, I'm very happy to see how dedicated all of you are. And also, please don't forget to attend the next 3 sessions also tomorrow again at 5 o'clock. Right. Again, to reiterate, the PPT will be shared with you. So please don't worry. PPT along with the YouTube recording of this session will be shared to you I think in a few days. So please don't worry. So thank you. Neha, do you want to say anything? The closing remarks?
Just, it was a nice session. Thank you, Madhukar sir, and thank you, Aditya, for joining us today, taking out the time, answering all the questions so patiently, and all the participants for attending the session so patiently, right from start till the end. Thank you all, and we can conclude the session, Ramya. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye.